What is up, everybody? My name is XrayCosmo, and welcome back to another Overwatch video. So today I'm going to be doing another hero tier list. If you're a subscriber, you may know that I did a season 24 tier list, so I'm pretty much doing this for every season now to let you guys know what I think or who is going to take the cake for the best and worst heroes. I want to start this as quick as possible, so let's get started. But before I do, a large percentage of you guys who watch my videos are not subscribed, so if you aren't subscribed, then please hit that subscribe button. It's free, and if you don't like my videos, you can always unsubscribe. That is free as well. Now let's get started before I talk for too long and waste your time. Now we have 5 subsections here of this large tier list. So we got God tier, solid hero, good, major drawbacks, and needs rework. There's no particular order. I'm not going to do it by whoever's in the front is the best, because there really is no best hero in Overwatch. At least I don't think so. I'm also not going to be doing it in order of tanks or DPS. I'm just going to go from left to right and just do it through the list. So we're starting off strong here with Soldier 76. Now everybody knows he recently got his very large buffs, and he's one of the best DPS heroes in the game right now. He puts out a ton of damage. His abilities are good. He has okay mobility, maybe not as good as mobility as someone like Genji or Widow, but still he has his run, which is basically on no cooldown. So all of these attributes, I'm pretty sure Soldier is pretty deserving of God tier. Next up is Orisa. Now, Orisa, she's been lacking a bit lately, even though most heroes, there isn't really a meta right now, really, but there are some heroes who are lacking, and I think that Orisa is one of those heroes. I think she has major drawbacks. Just all of her nerfs that she got, even though she got her speed buff, which makes her gun just shoot faster and it makes it easier to hit shots and more damage output, her pull is really a very big part of her kit, and I think because of that nerf, she really is just in major drawbacks. Another very strong hero, we're starting off with our favorite person from Russia. I really couldn't have described that any worse. Zarya's abilities are pretty self-explanatory. Her ult is one of the best ults in the entire game. It's basically, if you have her ult, you basically win the team fight if your team isn't incompetent, which, I mean, most of the time it is, but some of that little percentage of time when you're playing, it isn't, so it really can help out with the team fight. And also, her bubbles are amazing abilities. She outputs a lot of damage if she has high charge. Even if she doesn't have extremely high charge, she still puts out a really good amount of damage, so I think she deserves God tier up here with Soldier. Now Torb has actually been better than usual lately. I want to put Torb in good. He can put a lot of damage out, and he can also, his ult is actually pretty good if you know how to use it correctly. So there's not really much to say about Torb. I'm going to leave him in good, and all is well and done. Next up is Sigma. Now, there were a lot of angry comments when I put Winston above Sigma last time, but I do think that Sigma is becoming a very good hero recently. People are really just figuring out new ways to do things with him. His combos can actually output a ton of damage, and I do regret putting him not in God tier, so I'm also going to throw Sigma in God tier with Zarya and Soldier. It's really just his combos that do so much damage. His fire is like slow, but he can also output a lot with that rock. It's really up to the rock and how the user uses Sigma. Wow, that's a tongue twister. User uses Sigma. But it's really just how the player uses Sigma. If they don't play well, it's like any hero, you're going to be bad. So I'm going to put him in God tier because I think he is one of the best heroes in the game. Next up is Reaper. Now, Reaper's abilities, it's nothing special, but it's not really any crazy drawback, so I'm gonna put him with Torb. Yeah, his ult is okay, but it is very easy to stop with like a Mccree stun or Brig stun or just any stun. There's so many stuns in the game that it's easy to stop. And Wraith, it's a good ability, but only in certain parts of the game. It's pretty lackluster, if I'm being honest with you guys. So I think good is a great spot for Reaper to stay. I don't think he's any less or any more than good. Now, next up we have Baptiste. Now, Baptiste is really a tricky one because with certain buffs, I want to put him in God tier. I'm sure most of you know about the movie theater window. If you don't know, I'm just going to put a picture of it on the screen right now. It was on the PTR. It didn't get added in the last patch with his other buffs, but I really do think they're going to be adding this. I think they actually said that they are going to. It was just an issue with like animations and stuff. So I'm going to put Baptiste in God tier for the sake of the age of this video, because I do think he's going to be getting some buffs soon. He did just get his other buffs, and I just think he's a good healer overall if you know how to use him correctly. I think the main problem with a lot of Baptiste players is they don't know how to use their lamp, and because they waste their lamp, it's really a really crucial part of Baptiste's kit. So because of that, I'm going to put him in God tier, but I do think that players can mess up with him sometimes, kind of like Sigma with throwing out a shield when you're not really supposed to. Next up, as a lot of you may know, is my favorite hero in the entire game. Now, I'm trying not to be biased here, but Mccree, he did get some really good health buffs, and he also did get some good damage buffs. Well, not directly to his damage, but he did get that reload buff which in the end basically puts his damage up because he can shoot faster in the end and gets more bullets out. Now, I don't think Mccree is God tier. His stun is good. His high noon is just really lackluster, and I think that's why he is not in God tier. If maybe he got a buff to high noon or something changed, anything about high noon, it's what dragging... High noon is really the only thing that's dragging him down, so I'm just going to leave him in solid hero. I don't think he deserves God tier as much as it hurts me to put him below soldier. I have to, just because of high noon. I'm sure you guys understand. How many times have you tried high nooning and it's just completely failed? Next up is Ana. Now, I'm sure everyone knows Ana is one of the best heroes in the entire game. Anti is one of the most overpowered abilities in the entire game. I wouldn't say OP, just if you use it correctly, it can be very, very, very strong. And her whole kit, just sleep and nano, her healing output and her damage output. I mean, she does the same amount of damage as Mccree's Peacekeeper. Like, if anyone doesn't see a problem with that, like, I don't know what to say. But I'm going to leave Ana up here because I think she's very deserving of it. I think she actually is a better healer than Baptiste. But I'm just going to leave this here because there is no particular order to the heroes up there. They're all just God tier. No one is ahead of others in this section, so I'm just going to turn it back. Next up is Mei. Now, I'm not sure if they went to live. I think they might have, but they're probably going to, even if they haven't by the time this video is made, which is her buffs to her freeze, where when she goes into her cube, she reloads. So I do think that pulls her up from major drawbacks, because if she didn't have that, I really would have put her in major drawbacks. But I'm going to leave her in good with Torb Reaper, just because I don't think she is as the same level as like Mccree and some of these other DPS that are going to be in here. I think she's deserving of this spot. She can output like an okay amount of damage, and Blizzard is a great ult. I just think she doesn't have enough potential to be up in here with solid hero with Mccree. Next we have Pharah. Now, Pharah recently, really, she's just been doing fine, like nothing great, nothing bad, so I'm gonna put her in good with all of these heroes. I don't think she's like anything crazy. A lot of, I feel like the DPS are going to be in here, besides very few down here that just have a lot of damage potential. But there's not really a lot for Pharah to do. I mean, she can have her ult, and she survives a lot easier with Mercy. Mercy is a big help with Pharah, and I did put her in solid hero on my season 24 tier list, but the only reason I want to put her down here is just because I don't want to pair her up with Mercy, because every time you play Pharah, you're not gonna be with a Mercy. I mean, most of the time, probably if you go Pharah, one of the healers will switch to Mercy. You just can't count on it all the time, and her ult is pretty lackluster, just like Mccree's, but she just doesn't put as much consistent damage out as Mccree, and she's easier to kill since Mccree has a stun, and Pharah is just kind of flinging herself around in the air. So because of that, she gets good. So next up here we have Doomfist. Now, Doomfist is a tricky one because he can output a lot of damage, and sometimes you don't really know where to put him, but I do want to put him in solid hero, as I do think he can output a lot of value, and he can do a lot for the team fight, and his ult and his abilities do a lot of damage, so I'm not going to leave him in good. I know some people would put him there, but I do think you can get a good amount of value out of him. Next up is Diva. Now, Diva's DM is one of the best parts of her kit. I'm sure everyone knows this. I used to put her in major drawbacks, but I do think that she is better because as the game progresses, even though a hero won't get a direct buff, they do get indirect ones from other heroes getting buffs or nerfs, and I do think that Diva is stronger because she is a good counter to Soldier. Even though she can be a little bit of an ult battery sometimes, I do want to put her in solid hero. Hammond is another person, or hamster, who can be a ult battery, but if you play him correctly, he is one of the strongest characters in the entire game, which is why I want to put him in God tier. His juggle potential is just really good with the enemy team, and he can do a lot of damage if you know how to play him correctly. Junkrat, just a DPS. He does a lot of damage, has good mobility. His ult can get a pick or two, and if you know how to use it with good positioning, it's one of the strongest ults in the game, so I'm going to have to put him in solid hero. Reinhardt is another one of those heroes that is just always going to be strong no matter what happens to them. His slam is good, his shield is good, and even his charge can have a lot of potential if you know how to use it correctly and you use it at the right times. You can feed with Rein, but that really goes for any tank, so I'm just going to leave him in the top tier. Now Winston, I do think he can be like Diva, a little bit more of an ult battery with less potential to do things, so I am going to put him here. His ult is okay, it's nothing special, it's just mediocre. But not mediocre enough to be put into good, because his other potential with juggling and even just diving on the enemy team is strong, especially when with Diva. Next is Zen, who I also think is a very strong healer. He obviously doesn't do enough solo heals just by himself, but Discord Orb is very good if you have a good team coordination, and his trans is also one of the best ults in the game, especially for defense, so I'm gonna put him in solid hero just because I don't think he's up to par with these rest of these healers up here, but I do think he is enough to hold his own in solid hero. Next up is Brig. Now, Brig is okay. She's nothing special, but nothing terrible. So I think she really just fits good perfectly because she's just so average. Like, her heals is good and she is getting buffed. So maybe we'll see her move up to solid hero throughout the course of the season. But right now, I think I'm just going to leave her in good because I don't see anything coming soon, at least for now. Next up is Echo. Now, Echo I think is one of the most slept on heroes in this entire game, and I'm going to put her God tier, just because I think her abilities and ults, she can put out so much damage, and her ult is probably, I think, the most powerful ult in the entire game. There's not much self-explanation needed here. I mean, everyone knows that Echo's ult is extremely powerful, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a great hero, and she really can do a lot of work if you know how to play her correctly. Next up is Tracer, and once again, Tracer is a very good hero. She's always been good. She's never really been bad, and I don't think that she really has any drawbacks at all, so I'm gonna have to put her in God tier. I'm leaving a lot of people in God tier just because Blizzard have really been perfecting a lot of heroes, and they've just been completely balanced. Not too overpowered, but not too underpowered, and I think that's perfect just so they can be in God tier when they're perfect. We want to get as many heroes in there as possible. It's not really bad when there's a lot of heroes in the same section. It just means that Blizzard is finally balancing the game. So that's why I want to put Tracer in God tier. Next up, we have Ashe, which is another very, very good hero. I want to put Ashe in God tier with all these other DPS. We have an overwhelmingly amount of heroes in God tier now. It's just really growing and growing just because, as I said before, Blizzard is really just balancing the game. All these heroes are very, very good to play. They're all viable. And that's why when I was like thinking about making this video, I knew it was going to be very hard just because Blizzard has been balancing stuff so much recently. Like when I made the last tier list, oh my god, I can't even explain how easy it was to like just separate each thing into a subsection because heroes weren't balanced completely. Now that they're balancing heroes, all heroes are ending up in one section and it's just getting harder and harder. So hopefully the rest of these heroes, well, definitely the rest of these heroes won't turn into God tier, but I have to, I'm being a kind of a hypocrite because the next hero I am going to put in God tier, which is Mercy. Mercy really changes a lot with the game. She is pretty good with any DPS, really. She helps out. Well, that's her point. I guess I can pair her with other heroes because that is her purpose. But she is good with any DPS. No DPS lacks with Mercy if they're getting a pocket, which is Mercy's job, really. So I think that's why Mercy is God tier. Her ult is great. Res is one of the best is probably one of the best abilities in the entire game. And other than that, there's not really much more to say that Mercy is just one of the best healers in the entire game. She did lose a little traction before, but she's gaining it back and she's gaining her reign to fame again. Next up, we have Sombra. Now, Sombra, as we know, has one of the best kits in the entire game. Kind of reminds me of Ana. I don't know why. Probably no one else feels the same way. Never mind. Forget I said that. But Sombra has a very unique kit and a very good ultimate. Probably one of the best ultimates in the game next to Echo. Well, Echo's is probably a little bit better because she can use Sombra's ult and then someone else's ult a little bit later, but Sombra is probably the second best ult in the entire game. So I do think she has some drawbacks as she doesn't do as much damage as these other heroes up in God tier, but I do think she is a solid hero. She's been promoted from when I'm pretty sure I put her in good in my last tier list, so she's being promoted onto solid hero. Genji is another solid hero that I'm just going to throw him in there right now to start it off, just because especially with Ana, Blade is just so powerful and he can output a lot of damage. There's not really anything drawing Genji back a lot. He did get some nerfs, but he really is just thriving now with all these heroes being so balanced up here, able to help him out, especially the healers more than anything. So this is good for Genji. He also got promoted from good, I'm pretty sure, on my last tier list. So good job, Genji and Sombra. Next up is Sim. Now, Sim is a tricky one because you can get a lot of value out of Sim if you're a good Sim, but really most of the time, I think Sim has major drawbacks. Just damage drawbacks in general, I think is her main problem, and her ult isn't crazy good. It's okay, and I mean it can like split up a team fight, but I don't think she deserves to even be good. I think she should be put in major drawbacks with Orisa. They're both just not really shining recently. You can play them and win, but it's just going to be a little bit harder than using any of these other heroes. So next up is one of the most hated heroes in the entire game. We have Hanzo here. Now, I don't want to put Hanzo in good because I do think he has a lot of damage potential, but I don't think he is God tier as he doesn't have a crazy amount of mobility. He does have his wall climb and his little jump, but I really just don't think it does a lot sometimes. So I'm going to leave him in solid hero. I feel like a lot of people are going to be mad that I didn't put him in the top, but I just don't think he's to the level of all these heroes up here. Now, Widow, this is a very, very tricky one because of Widow's recent nerfs where she got put down to 175 health. I don't know how I feel about this one. Widow is really just a glass cannon. She can get a lot of damage out, and I want to give her the benefit of the doubt, but because of her health being lowered by 25, that's a really big disadvantage as she could be very easily killed now. So I'm going to have to put her in solid hero. If it was the other Widow with her 200 health, I definitely would put her in God tier. I just don't think she's as good as she used to be, especially with all the power creep nerfs that have been coming towards specifically Widow. And I have a feeling that Widow is going to get nerfed more throughout the season. So I'm just going to leave her in solid hero as I don't think she deserves God tier. Bastion, really straight and honest right here. I do think Bastion needs a rework. He's just not a great hero. His ult isn't the best. It could be very easily stopped. And Bastion, really, if you know how to counter him, it's very, very easy. And I don't think he deserves anything higher than needs a rework. I really do think he needs like a Torb style rework. Torb's rework was probably one of the best reworks in the entire game. So I really hope Bastion gets something like that before Overwatch 2, so it's not really messy and he's not just a throw pick. Along with Moira, I don't want to put her in needs rework, but I do want to put her in major drawbacks as she does have a lot of them. Her abilities and healing just aren't anything compared to like Ana or Bap. Her abilities just don't do as much when you can why would you play Moira when you can play Baptiste and get immortality field and probably even now do even more healing? There's just really no point, especially when you have Ana as well. It's just a bad pick if you pick Moira, so I'm gonna leave her in major drawbacks. I don't think she needs a rework. I do hope they bring to live what they had on the PTR of her, where her balls connect to people. Wow, that sounds really weird. Where her orbs connect to people and they do a certain amount of damage and then they run out if they bounce once. I think that was a great change and it could move Moira to even good or maybe solid hero. So hopefully we see something like that coming up soon. Hog. Now, Hog, if it was last season, I would have put him in God tier, but I really think that he is a solid hero now just because of his recent nerfs, or not really recent, it's more middle of season 24. Those nerfs really hurt Hog, and I don't think he's getting any buffs anytime soon. He's in an okay place right now, not too powerful, not too weak, so I think solid hero is a good place for him. And that's really all I have to say about Hog. His ult is okay, hook is good. They did give him a hook buff actually, I forgot about that, but that still isn't enough to move him to God tier, so I'm gonna leave him in solid hero. Now, last but not least, we have Lucio. Now, he may not be as good as other healers, but I don't think he is as bad as Moira, so I do want to put him with Brig because I don't think he is really level with Ana or Bap or anyone else that is on this list, not even Zen. So I'm going to put him with Brig since I think that is a fitting spot. His healing isn't amazing, but his ult is okay, so that's really what's keeping him away from major drawbacks or even needs rework. So good luck, Lucio. Maybe we'll get some changes. I have a feeling we'll get some changes for Lucio since they've really been reworking around all the heroes and he hasn't really been touched yet. Do you guys like my Season 25 tier list? Let me know in the comments below. If you disagree, I'm really sorry. This is my opinion, so don't get too angry at it. If you guys enjoyed the video, please drop a like. It helps the channel out a lot. And if you want more gaming content and news, hit that subscribe button and that bell so you can see all my videos when they first come out. Also, if you want a shout out at the end of the video, leave a comment and you can get picked for that. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.